Google. Let's go get them again.
Welcome back to another episode of Samplin Samples. Today we are delving into the brand of Louis Vuitton, sponsored by Starbucks. But I am having my cold coffee this morning and getting you some content today. Now this today is on a very popular fragrance within our fragrance community. Nothing new, but Ombre Nomade from the brand of Louis Vuitton, which is a hype beast. This was the first fragrance of the Middle Eastern line. I believe it started out as a Middle Eastern exclusive. I'm pretty sure if my Rolodex is correct, it actually was on the female aisle. Louis Vuitton used to put, they started off, and I have my one bottle of the brand here, which is Mille Feux. A Tuscan leather-esque fragrance, but more feminine. They started off with a feminine line. That's what they deemed it. So they had like several fragrances, feminine line, and then later on they did a men's line. And then they kind of just started doing what everybody else does. They're unisex. So this was the first of the Middle Eastern line, and I believe it was dubbed into the women's aisle back then, which is quite interesting, to be quite honest. And you're going to see a little bit of Tuscan leather-esque in here as well. Their in-house perfumier, Monsieur Cavalier, did construct TL, Tuscan leather, for Tom Ford, among others. He has a great resume, but Louis Vuitton and I don't have much of a history, as you can tell. You can go on my channel and type in Louis Vuitton Robes 08, and you're going to see a lot of crickets. Obviously, I own Mille Feux. I like it. It has a pretty good dent into it, but I've had it for several years. I blind bought that one because of the early returns when they first introduced this brand. That was the one out of the whole feminine line, quote unquote, that I was like, oh, this might be a little more my speed, because it was getting compared to Tuscan leather on the feminine aisle of things. So that's why I kind of gravitated and blind bought that one. And then I kind of shied away from the brand a bit, which we will see. Now, other than that, I've smelt Nouveau Monde, which was excellent. I believe it was a sampling samples, and I believe I got a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10 on my channel means that it is bottle worthy. I will buy it at some point, but I'm not in a rush. As you can tell behind me here, I got a lot of unboxings to do. So I'm never really in a rush. I am very patient when I think fragrances are good or great. Sometimes, obviously, that FOMO comes into play and kicks in a fragrance ahead of purchase, we'll say. Maybe because there was limited distribution. Maybe it's discontinued, and I found finally a deal. It used to be like kicking around $400 or $500, and then eventually I find a partial for $200 and I snatch it up. That's how this mind works in regards to purchasing. So even though it got a 9, a really good score, Nouveau Monde will be in my collection at some point, but I'm not in a rush. It was really good. This one has a little bit of Nouveau Monde in it. Cavalier, Cavalier in his younger years used to be he was an interesting perfumier. He did really good light summer fragrances really well, and he did darker fragrances really well. And you'll look at his resume and you'll see things like Noir de Noir of Tom Ford, Tuscan leather from Tom Ford. And then you'll see Issey Miyake Puram and Acqua di Gio Armani, which of course was penned also with Maurice and a gang of others. So you could tell that this guy has a very good resume, especially in the 90s and early 2000s and now. Cavalier really is a versatile perfumier. There's not too many that can make a top seller summer fragrance and a top seller darker fragrance for winter. So my thoughts on the brand of Louis Vuitton. Why haven't you seen much on my channel? Well, I beat to my own drum. If you don't know, anybody that's subscribed to me knows. I'm not in a rush. I test a lot. I smell a lot. There's a lot of things to discover. And sometimes, you know, my thought of the brand, especially in the past like 5 years, give or take, is TikTokers that are way too young, with too much money from ad revenue, pushing this stuff. It's like the bro brand at the moment, right? The flex brand, and things like Roja Dove and Clive Christian, where he's giving out free bottles, Louis Vuitton. These are all bro brands, right? Like, let me take a picture of it with my Jaguar symbol on my in my car, my Mercedes in my car. you know, flexing to people that you don't even know. You're never going to meet. Not that it matters. Like, why are you flexing like that? Like, and that's the thing with Louis Vuitton. I kind of have this like cringe of people that push this stuff and don't really enjoy the artistic side of perfumery. It's like even this one gets kind of pelt over the head. Everybody says 10 out of 10. Nobody dares going after it and going, you know what, this is not good. Unless you're subscribed to these little bros and you're used to the Eventises and things like that and like really fresh stuff, and then your favorite TikToker gives you this, is a little daring for you and you get scared. So I was interested in Ombre Nomade when it first came out, but since then my thoughts of the brand and TikTokers kind of made me recoil a little bit. But I don't want that to stop me from delving into brands like PDM, Initio, and Louis Vuitton. So this is going to be already a long video. I'm anticipating a 30-minute video here, but let's delve into it. While we're here, let's see if this thing is overhyped. Is it any good? Will it be a start of me sniffing more Louis Vuitton scents on my channel? Actually, I went into my little, I got like a huge off camera, you know where the purgatory is with all the bottles that I have to unbox, not including the ones up top here. There's hundreds of bottles on the other side, but there's also thousands of decants and samples. I kind of went, I have it on my desk here. I have like at least 50 or so decants and samples that I need to work on, which Ombre Nomade was next. But I took out some of my Louis Vuittons that I bought months ago. So I got a few here that I'm going to name off. So anybody that's a big LV fan, let's see what I got. So I got Sun Song, which I believe is discontinued. I have On the Beach. I have Afternoon Swim, Imagination. I have LV Lovers, Cactus Garden, which I believe is also discontinued, Nuit de Feu, which I believe is the colored bottle, kind of like Ombre Nomade. And lastly, we have Pacific Chill. Now, there might be more. And that's the problem with the frag head like me. There's so much to discover and talk about. Like, that's in my let's talk about it pile, which you may not see these until 2026. I'll be quite honest. Some of them are closer than others. But that's what I have. So if you're asking me, hey, can you talk about this? Well, it's in the queue, some sort of queue. So if you're new here, welcome to the Robes Away channel. I'm your host, Mark. Smash that subscribe button. You're gonna see, you know, especially if you're Louis Vuitton frag head, or you're gonna see some of it on my channel in the near future. So you have to hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss anything. Smash that like button for my work. I do work on these. I don't go on Fragrantica. So if you're new to me, right, I'm not a Fragrantica fragrance reviewer that, you know, just copies what people say. I don't go watch a fragrance review and just write everything down that what they say and I go in depth. So you're not going to see me just say this is a rose oud thingy that smells kind of like Tuscan leather. No. You're gonna see a little bit of magic in this fragrance review. I've been at it for a while. So let's see what I can do with Ombre Nomade. Again, it's going to be a long fragrance review. Now let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one and let's see a little bit of information before we start dissecting. Now the release date was back in 2018, so it has a few years behind it. Nose in-house perfumier Jacques Cavalier Beltrude added Beltrude to his name. His resume, his designer resume is effing outstanding. Just one of the master perfumiers, to be quite honest. Now, this isn't a TikToker here saying, oh, him and Bish are awesome, they're amazing, you know, Louis Vuitton, Bish, yes. This is a guy that has seen Cavalier change his name to Beltrude. But, you know, you see things on his resume like Essignac put to M7, to Rive Gauche pour Opium pour Acqua di Gio with Maurice, and that's just a small part of his resume. Really an outstanding resume. You know, a lot of the stuff that I just named off is behind me here. A lot of discontinued greats, some top sellers out there, some that used to be top sellers. You know, just having M7, Rive Gauche pour and Opium pour is already good enough. That's like, your resume is good enough, but you start adding more to that. You know, top sellers that are still selling, like Acqua di Gio, I know that is a pair of people that done it. He's done a bunch of Tom Fords from the initial launch. You're looking at Tuscan Leather, which is probably one of his biggest releases, to Noir de Noir as well. So let's get into the notes. Let's take a look at what I'm going to be getting hit with here. So up top we have raspberry and saffron. So that raspberry from Tuscan Leather is going to remind some people, yeah, it's the exact same penmanship, we'll say. Not as strong in here, a lot busier than Tuscan Leather in the top note. Now in the mid we have rose, benzoin, and geranium. He has been known to utilize rose quite a bit as well, and very good at it. Now in the back end we got oud, incense, amberwood, and birch. Oud, of course, utilized the first real, we'll say, popular mainstream oud M7, obviously with Tom Ford. So that is part of his resume, his cachet, I guess, Cavalier. So the big notes to my nose. I'm gonna pluck one from each portion of this fragrance. So up top, I'm gonna pluck the saffron. The saffron itself is going to give you a leather piece. So think about that, raspberry saffron. The saffron's doing leather. What does that make you think? Yeah, it makes you think of Tuscan Leather. Now, rose is a major facet. I think Louis Vuitton does not publish that rose is in here. It's in here. If you miss it, you're nose blind. Rose is a major facet in here. And towards the end, it's the oud. Now, I could have picked incense as well, but now that's making you think, okay, Mark, is this a typical rose, oud, saffron mix? And yeah, you could possibly be a little right here. There is that, but there's much more to this fragrance than that. So let's delve into it. I'm wearing it today, but we are going to drain my little sample here. It had the orangey glow kind of juice. And a lot of you are going, oh my God, you're going crazy on that atomizer. You don't need that much. I'm just draining it. It's on fumes. Like I'm just, there was nothing in here. Launching, Kobe. It went under the door. So a successful launch. Yeah, the start of Ombre Nomade brings me to your typical classical rose oud saffron combo, and will be the backbone of this scent profile. Think Black Oud by Montal. Now again, not just that, and again, as far as quality things, there's levels to this stuff. I would say the quality is a little big schmidden higher than a Montal fragrance, but giving you the idea of what I'm getting, the classical saffron rose oud combo. So it's going to give you a good sense where this is going, but there's much more going on to this set. If it was just that, I would just say go get the Montal. Yeah, it's a little less quality. It's beast mode, just like this one, as people say. I would suggest that, but there's much more going on here. And Cavalier does reach into his little bag of tricks for this one and grabs different facets from stuff he's done in the past. Now mash that up, that little Middle Eastern rose oud saffron combo, with his love of his baby Tuscan Leather, because he's pulled it here. He did a little bit of Tuscan Leather-esque in here. He did a little bit of Tuscan Leather Nouveau Monde. So I'm looking forward to a Louis Vuitton that I that I haven't smelt, that doesn't smell a little bit like Tuscan Leather, because this one also has it. Now, is it hidden in these rose oud saffron combo with some incense and multiple other facets? Yes, it is. So he's used this TL recipe in a few of these Louis Vuittons already. Well, he is the one that made Tuscan Leather, so why not flex a bit here? So you'll get that beautiful raspberry here and leathery touch as well. The leather is, of course, from the saffron. The saffron can be the culprit here for the leather. I'm going to put it as the culprit that I smell, since it's not an actual note in the breakdown. So he pulls a lot of these. I took out these three classics from Cavalier. So I get a little bit of his Noir de Noir here that he penned for Tom Ford as well. Do I mean that this smells like Noir de Noir? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Even the big facets of Noir de Noir are missing in this fragrance. But the rose, kind of similar. Saffron, kind of similar. The oud, not similar. But those three notes are prominent in Noir de Noir. It does not smell like it, but you can tell the same kind of brush strokes were taken here for Noir de Noir, Tuscan leather, kind of hidden in this fragrance. So Cavalier does go in the past a little bit here with, could I say, M7 with the oud. Am I stretching it a little bit? Probably, that's a stretch. The oud does not smell like the M7 oud. However, this one's, it's westernized, but there's some tricks to it. So it's not, you know, the Dr. Pepper of the fragrance game here. It's not going to be an M7 like I was kind of stretching the truth here a little bit, but he's pulling from his past a little bit. And of course, it's Tuscan leather with the raspberry leather and the Noir de Noir with the rose saffron oud. So Cavalier is using some of his best work here in Ombre Nomade. So let's talk of prominence in the notes, right? This is something that your technical fragrance reviewer should let you know about, you know, which note's primary, which one's secondary, which one, you know, really doesn't do much. Let's tackle the rose first. I think is one of the prominent notes, which isn't listed on the Louis Vuitton note breakdown as a note at all, but it is a primary. It's a great rose, a really, really good rose. Now, those, you know, that note is as old as dirt. You can find, you know, whatever kind of rose you want. You want a dark one. You want a green one, you want a light watery one, you want just rose petals, a beautiful little pink rose kind of thing going on. The world's your oyster in regards to rose. So rose-based scents have to be like amazing, but this is not that because there's a lot more going on than just rose. But it is a great one. The rose is thick, it is dense, it's full bloom red. It really shows you the red nuances. It's heavy, slightly jammy. Now the raspberry can help with that. I don't sense a strawberry-like hue that jammy roses do, but I think the raspberry kind of helps that idea for me personally. And it's not overly synthetic as like a jammy Montal rose will say. So the raspberry note takes care of that sweetness for us here. And there is a little bit of sweetness in this fragrance for sure, but the raspberry does most of the heavy lifting here. And you're gonna lose the raspberry. It's not a major player in this fragrance, but the introduction, you do smell it. Obviously it's a top note. Sometimes top notes are fleeting or you don't smell them at all. It does have a portion in here, but the rose is a primary. You are going to feel it throughout the fragrance from start to finish. It's an excellent one. It's full bloom. It's as ruby red as you can think about it. It's almost at that point that the rose petals are going to start decaying a little bit. They're starting to round out a little bit. It's at its pinnacle of scent profile. So think about that rose in this release. Now let's go to the next thing, which is the birch tar. I get a little bit of birch in here. It's not as deep or dense or as smoky, as thick, or has much of a growl that I've smelt in a lot of heavy birch tar fragrances. The penmanship of Cavalier for this particular note was very thinned out. I think he wanted some mystery, some darkness with this note. So you're not going to get the big, thick, dense thing that you get with a lot of really daring niche offerings of, like, you know, lesser known niche brands that can go much more daring, or indie brands that use birch tar. But it'll give the leather some growl. And even the oud, it will pair well. It will attach itself to the oud and give that some growl and a little bit of smoke, but it's not to the level that you would get in a fragrance that I would think of an indie brand. So you get a little bit of that here. And the one thing that I want to portray too in this introduction, you do get this sense of an oily balsamic quality here with some ashy nuances that just add to the complexity, to the darkness, the mystery of this fragrance. So it's not just your typical Rhode Oud Saffron combo where you're thinking that. There is a lot of air mystery here, and the balsam oily quality really helps that. The ashy quality helps that. But it's not in a The volume was, it's almost like Cavalier, you know, you got your high volume, your low volume. Cavalier just went straight as an arrow, and he's like, this is how much daringness that I want in this release. I want it to be still designer. It will, you know, ruffle some noses that are not used to this kind of stuff, but it may introduce a lot of people to more interesting fragrances. Like the volume could have been turned up quite a bit, but he decided to just keep it even keel in the middle with this release. Now, as for the oud itself, it has a westernized feel to it. You know, it's mildly, and I really want to emphasize that word, mildly, and some people may correct me on this because they, you know, it depends where you are in your journey, but I feel like it's mildly cheesy. It's not animalic, it's not barnyardy, mostly woody, dusty thing. So that's why I'm going westernized oud, but it does have a little bit of funk to it, a little cheesiness. But I feel like Cavalier did all he could to surround this oud to give it this multifaceted touch to it. So it is a really good contrast, and there's a lot of notes around it, the secondary notes that really emphasize it really, really well. It's quite well done here, and I think we need to give the nose his props to push this as much as he could here to keep it designer, but still give it some interesting facets. It's as good as a designer oud is going to get without getting into the funky stuff, in my opinion. So we spoke about the rose as primary, the oud as well, and now the saffron, right? We got to talk about the triple-headed monster. The saffron shows its spicy and leathery nuances in spades. Leather, you know, if you're thinking Tuscan leather, you know, it is compared to Tuscan leather a lot because there's leathery nuances from the saffron, and there is a raspberry note in here, so people are going to gravitate towards that. And Cavalier was the pen that made Tuscan leather, so all the dots go together, right? There's a lot more to this than just a Tuscan leather, but if you squint real hard, not real hard, but the leather isn't big and bold like it is in Tuscan leather. The raspberry isn't the huge primary in here that it would be. Like, it really has a lot more going on in this intro, that the raspberry is there. You can feel it. It's easy to spot, but at the same time, there's so much more in Ombre Nomade that you kind of, you know, there's so much more to discover, that it's not a Tuscan leather fragrance. Definitely not. So the trifecta of Middle Eastern perfumery is in full showcase here. I think all three notes Cavalier did well with them. And I mean, like, as far as going into like the niche realm and high-end designers and regular signature designer fragrances, you know, the rose is on par with some of the better ones that I could think of. As far as, you know, we're not going to go into indie and stuff like that, but it's just as good. The oud is just as good as any, and the saffron is just as good as any. So sometimes in perfumery, we do get heavy rose in these kind of compositions, right? I say like an oud rose saffron combo, but the rose is your primary. It is going to be the one that is the strongest one out of all three. And then on the other side of the coin, you get the more masculine ones, which are the oud is the more prominent one out of all three. And then there's the rare time that the saffron, which is usually the third wheel out of the three combo, is going to be your primary, which is very rare, to be quite honest. The rose, you know, you can shut down the rose quite tame, and oud, you kind of really have to turn down the volume to get the saffron to be the primary throughout the fragrance. So we get all those, but here I feel like all three of these materials shine, which is really nice to see, because really most times you get either or, right? You get something. One of them is going to stand out more. Now, you know, if you're asking 10 people, you know, I think primarily, most people that are new to perfumery may not know that saffron has this leathery touch, so they may go like, this is more of an oud scent. Like, it'd be 5 to 5. I think a lot of people would say this is a rose-based scent, and others would say this is an oud-based scent. No one's wrong, because I think they both shine, and even the saffron, if you know that's the leathery touch, I think all three, I think you'd get, you know, if you polled people, I think you'd get three votes for all three, and then one wild card. The raspberry. The raspberry itself is a high secondary note in the introduction alone. So the sweetness is a good facet to add here. However, it is going to lose quite a lot of steam in the dry down. The benzoin picks up where the raspberry left off. So you're going to lose that raspberry sweetness, but you're going to get the benzoin that's going to be, and things are going to get less busy in the back end. So the benzoin is going to pick up a lot more where the raspberry left off, and will give the scent a good ambery warmth as well, which will start in this opening, but it will be a bigger player in the dry down. And again, the busy intros, when perfumiers throw like the whole kitchen sink at you, it's kind of hard to pinpoint. Like there's a muskiness in the background of this thing, but honestly, there's got to be, like in a fragrance review, I got to tell you what the primaries are, the high secondaries. And there is obviously some flatness in the back end of the fragrance, like a muskiness of some sort. And there is that benzoin, but the major focus is on the triple-headed monster of the saffron, oud, rose, and then the Tuscan leather-esque kind of feeling. And we haven't even talked about the incense yet. The intro takes you for a ride. You think you're getting a typical rosewood saffron scent when a Tuscan leather kind of raspberry shows up with leathery nuances, and then incense hits you as well with a little slap of birch tar. The scent, for me personally here, at this junction, we haven't talked about dry down yet, is well composed by a master perfumier. And again, as much as I want to hate Ombre Nomade with the bros and the TikTokers and the flexers and all that, you kind of want to just say, you know what, your holy grail is garbage, boys. You want to say that. But I can't complain on the levels here, the volumes and the textures. Cavalier fully flexed on this introduction. Now, my only gripe with Ombre Nomade, as a frag head that's been in this game for so long, the only thing I would personally ask for, if this was made for me personally, and I know it's made more for sales and Louis Vuitton, and then, you know, you got to have that demographic that comes into the LV stores, and you kind of have to bog down the fragrance a little bit. My only gripe would be more. And what do I mean by that is more of everything. But I think that would remove it from being wearable in the designer crowd. I'd like more funk from the oud, more dense smoke from the birch tar. But that's my little perfume wish. It has some growl to it. And to the bros out there watching, you know, your favorite TikToker trying to flex with the Ombre Nomade, and they smell this for the first time and they go, yuck, you, ooh, to animalic, back to Aventus, back to Parfum de Marly I go. The growl itself, to me, just isn't grown up yet. It's like a bulldog, you know, barking at me from, you know, paces away. Yeah, I'm going to be like a little, you know, I'm going to be taking a couple steps back, but take that versus a lion growling at you. There's a little bit of a stronger fear factor, we'll say. And that's where I'm at with this fragrance, is that there is some growl, you know, bulldog growling at you. Yeah. But it's a big difference from that to a lion. You know, you're staring at it and you're just like, okay, or a tiger, doesn't matter. Either way, that bulldog doesn't look as scary anymore. And that's where I'm comparing this growl in this fragrance. So you're introduced to all this in the opening. It's busy, yeah. It's bold and it's well done. Going into the mid, and again, I've explained most of the stuff that you're going to get introduced in the dry down as well, but going into mid, you're going to start seeing the amber woods shine through a bit here. So to the big boy frag heads, they may need to earmuff right now. As you may not enjoy this dry down as much as the introduction. And I totally understand. Amber woods don't scare me as a lot of frag heads out there. They hear the word and they scatter, right? For me, no. So you're gonna see a little bit more of that. The benzoin is still around and it's gonna give you a little bit of that vanillic touch here, so that goes with that amber. The incense is also holding on with the rose and the oud combo, so you're gonna get some woods from the oud as well. You're gonna get the smoky balsamic quality kind of shaking off of this portion of the scent, so you're losing a little bit of that boldness You lose the fruity touch, absolutely, that's gone. You lose some of the leathery touches as well. You gain a musky backbone. Not that you gain it, but you see it because it's much smoother in this back end. It gets denser, but it loses a lot of its personality for me. So there's some personality up top, right? And here it slows down a bit and it just stays, it's almost like, you know, a drink that you're mixing and then like all the stuff goes at the bottom and at that top, you know, you're missing a little bit. You didn't shake it enough, right? And that's where this is in the dry down. It's like not shaken or stirred enough, that you're missing some key components, but still very, very solid in the back end. You know, what more can you ask for? Yeah, maybe a little more complexity, maybe a little more depth, a little more volumes in the back end, a little more interest. But what I spoke about in the introduction, all those interesting parts, they do gather into the mid, and then, you know, in hour 5 or 6, there's still moving parts there. But in the deeper dry down, you're going to lose a lot of that, you know, in hour 8 or 9. And this thing does last quite a bit. Like I'm saying, hour 8 or 9, yeah, it goes 10 plus. So overall, Ombre Nomade, and I'm killing this little test strip. Overall, Ombre Nomade, okay, is hailed as a holy grail fragrance from the Fragrance Bros on TikTok. As much as a real fragrance reviewer that does not follow trends, does not copy others, and, you know, has tons of experience and isn't selling anything to you. I'm not here to flex. I'm not here to do any of that kind of stuff. All I'm here for you is to guide you. And, you know, depending on where you are in your journey, my thoughts can just be, you know, guy just logs in to watch me say yay or nay. You don't even care about the details. Others are learning. They're watching me and kind of learning from what I've done over the years. So what is this? I really want to pan their holy grail here to the ground. I really do. Because I know why a lot of them do. They copy each other and things like that. So it irks me a little bit, but I won't. Because Cavalier did his thing here. I'm sure there's going to be, like in that sample, all those samples went back to their home there in the Purgatory. I'm sure there's going to be several of those that I'm going to be readily available to pan. So I can't wait on those. But today's not the day. You got a good one on your hands here. Cavalier did well. Now, is this thing revolutionary? No. As a general idea here, this isn't new. You can find something that will do this in the general idea of this for cheaper. And many brands have already done things like this. But the magic of Ombre Nomade is not that it's an oud, rose, saffron. That ain't new. You can find that on a motel, $100 or less, 100%. It's what he does with the small nuances, you know, especially if you don't see these small nuances that make this thing what it is, which is great. You won't bother getting this. And I can see that. And I can agree with that. Get the dupe, get the motel, right? If you like the leather and saffron, you know, raspberry combo, check out Tuscan Leather and all its dupes. If you like the oud rose combo here, there's tons of those on the market as well. However, you know, I think, and I haven't looked at all the reviewers, but, you know, reviewers that I highly respect, I'm sure have given this, they would have to, unless they're really bang on trying to get to the TikTokers. But I think we could all agree that this is solidly done. Now, obviously it's not universally loved. It shouldn't, and no perfume should be universally loved. There is a little bit of growl here that will sway away a good 50% of the general population. So what I enjoyed here, what did I enjoy? Well, I enjoyed Cavalier's blending here. His, let's say, going into his bag of tricks and pulling some of his top sellers in this composition. Yeah, and, you know, things, you know, like Tuscan Leather and Noir Noir are top sellers, of course. Cavalier has always been good at volumes, blends, giving complexity when needed, and giving us quality. You know, a lot of his designer stuff is kind of punching up its price tag way back when. When Issey Miyake came out with Issey Miyake Boram, It's a top seller for a reason. It was well done. M7, probably not. It was quite bold and unique. Obviously got discontinued, but it, you know, if you're talking about the real frag heads out there, a lot of people would love to have M7, a bottle, the original M7. So I think this is part of the modern era pinnacle of designer releases. Right? This is as good and as daring as you can get, I think, in the designer realm without getting discontinued. You can't push the envelope too much, right? And much more than this. I think this is as much as you can do and to be successful, right? You see things like Gucci Guilty Absolute, you know, from Marias, right? Pushing the boundary, not selling well, discontinued, right? A lot of my favorite fragrances in the designer game, you know, the ones that are more daring, more unique, more interesting, you know, have been axed. So he did well here. He really balanced that, the daring and the general public, and put it together, and it sold well. So let's get into Seasons Day Night Versatility Performance, and then we'll give my final thoughts and a score as well. Am I gonna get a bottle of this? Well, my final thoughts. No, not my final thoughts. Seasons. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Seasons. Fall and winter, of course. And again, in Canada, this will be more of a utility fragrance for me personally, because we don't get that much warm weather. I don't think this will do well in warm weather. You can pull it off, but I think it shines in the cold weather, which it did in my testing. We still have snow on the ground. Yes, we do. So fall, winter, and you can even go start of spring, and even like these cooler spring nights, you can extend the life of this thing. So this thing has more utility for me than maybe somebody that's in Florida, California, you know, Mexico, places like that. You're gonna get less utility out of this fragrance. Day or night, I think, is more of a nighttime scent, again with the dark bottle and the fragrance and the you know, the notes utilized. It's more of a nighttime scent. There's nothing wrong wearing this as your signature and wearing it daily, especially in the cooler months. Yeah. Versatility, depending on you, below average. For the most part, it's going to be, versatility is going to be below average. You know, for a guy like me, this is like, I could use this the same way I use Tuscan leather. People think Tuscan leather is kind of big and bold, and I think like it's more of a utility fragrance. I'll wear it in the dead winter, anytime. Dress it up, dress it down, don't care. I think this is a fragrance, as far as versatility goes, I think it's more of a personality thing than more of a weather thing. And depending on not even just personality, but what your day-to-day is, right? If you work in a hospital 6 days out of 7, well, is this thing worth it? Like, is it just one of those special occasion type fragrances? I could see that. It's a special fragrance that you're going to wear just a black tie event, something like that, to establish dominance. I can see that. Performance. Performance is a huge, you know, people actually review this thing and only talk about performance. They don't even talk about the scent profile. It is mind-numbing to be a fragrance reviewer at times. Like, I've watched some of these kids and I'm like, you did not even talk about what it smells like. All you were talking about was performance. Compliments. I'm like, what? Performance, and we're not going to talk a lot about it. For me, on my little sample here, longevity was 10 to 12 plus hours with beast projection. And with that kind of performance, and I can attest, a lot of these Louis Vuitton, this one right here, Mille Feux, when I wear it, oh man, I got some people sometimes when I wear that fragrance that go headache inducing. I wore too much, which is crazy. That's my kind of experience with a lot of these LVs right now. Again, I've only tested Nouveau Monde, this, and that guy. Everything else is in the sample bin ready to be sniffed, but very good performance. I'm not a bro, so it's not a big sell piece for me. It's a good thing, great. But it makes you think a little bit more when you're gonna wear it, right? The start of the day, where am I going? Am I going on a train? Well, I don't know if I'm gonna wear this. I don't wanna be that type of guy, right? It's gonna make some people think, others don't give an F. Some people will go to the hospital wearing this. you know, your Jeremy fragrances, I could see that guy wearing 10 sprays of this and going, yep, beast mode. Okay, buddy. Final thoughts. Okay, so my final thoughts are this. Is this a masterpiece? Ooh, that's the big M word. No. No, is a very positive fragrance review. Yes. Not to me. It's going to get a good score. It's going to get an excellent score, actually. But I'm just thinking of it as a whole. If I didn't have this in my collection, which I currently don't, would it be missed? Or would I gravitate towards other things before? Like if I started plucking down my collection and I had it in it, would this thing be missed? I don't think so. Not really. And that's a different thing of saying that versus other fragrances in my collection where I'm just like, that is a masterpiece because that's how I feel. I don't have that feeling with Ombre Nomade. I feel it plucks a lot and it's greatly done. But I think the general idea of it is not masterpiece worthy for me. It's a great piece to have, but not one that shines in the category that it's in as best in class. I think it would be in the short talks of it, right? We're bringing it down to the last 5 or 6. But if you're looking at this as a rose oud saffron combo, and it's not just that, but let's say that's the category it's going to be in, because what other category are you going to put in it? A leathery fragrance? No. Are you going to put it as an incense base? No. So where are you going to put it? You're going to slot it in that class. Is it the best in class? Oh, I don't know about that. It will be in the short, and I think it will be one of the last standing in the designer names, right? Even high-end designers. Yeah. It's just damn good though. And that I have to give it props. Now, if you look at Ombre Nomade and you say this is your holy grail oud, now there's nothing wrong with that, but we do need to open you up to some indie brands. But again, that is part of the journey. If you want to push the boundaries a little more, I highly suggest that. This is not your holy grail or the high-end oud that there's more to discover. Honestly, this could also be categorized as a rose as well, to be quite honest. And as a holy grail rose, and again, that's where this thing slots in. It's more than just that. It's a sum of all its parts, actually. Creativity, honestly, took a hit here. It's not the most creative idea. It's not. So again, a fragrance reviewer should give you positives, negatives, and I'm hopefully giving you as much positives and negatives as I can and to be as fair as I can. So we're going to hit this fragrance with that one little negative point, but Cavalier does mix it up here a bit though here. I hope you enjoyed my take on this little sample. And again, it's not a fragrance review. Don't call it that. Don't put that in the comments. You're going to make me angry. It is just the little samples, you know, a couple days of wearing this thing, and that's what I get out of it. It's not a full review, but it's much better than trying to read through reviews that don't even speak about what the scent is all about. You know, they all talk about how much power it has or how much power my bottle does not have, you know, or lack thereof, or compliments and things like that. This is what Ombre Nomade gives you to a frag head. An excellent release from Cavalier and Louis Vuitton. Not that I was surprised, but it gave me a lot more than I came in thinking. So Ombre Nomade gives a good thought of warmth, depth, mystery, which I love having in fragrances. I'm seeing a woman wearing this, and there's a little bit of power in here too. And I don't mean Jeremy fragrance power. I mean and I don't mean like performance power. I just mean it has that air of it too. It balances smooth opulence in one hand and rugged aggressiveness almost to perfection. Not too many scents can do that. And for that fact alone, not just that fact, but mostly for that fact, I'm going to give it a score, and I'm going to give it a good score today. We are going to get a 10 out of 10 bottles here on the Rope Toy channel. You know what that means. It's already been done. Done. Next. We're going to put that in the purgatory for now, but I got my second Louis Vuitton here, Ombre Nomade. Nouveau Monde is still on the checklist. Doesn't mean because I discovered it first that it's going to be the first bottle. I just found a good deal on it and I pulled the trigger. It is a partial that I got on Facebook groups, which is a high partial. Perfectly fine for me. So good addition to my collection. And it's not a Louis Vuitton collection yet. And there's a little bit of redundancy between these two, a little bit of it. But it's nice to see another LV. Now that you heard my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. Good, bad, and the ugly. Again, you don't have to agree with me. And again, you can say good things, bad things, right? Anything at all in regards to the scent profile itself, I'd love to hear it. If you've got a different type of imagery, please share. I love to see those kind of comments below. And you can, if you got nothing else to share, maybe what you're looking forward to on the channel from my little samples there, which one you're looking forward to. And as always, a great pour fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely and choose when you're going to wear this thing wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.